Hey, what's up, everybody? I am recording this on Monday evening, and I don't know if this is going to be going up either tomorrow on Tuesday or on Saturday because my team and I are in the process of finishing Tome Episode 12. So either that will be up or this will be up, and they'll be switching places depending on whatever gets done first. But yeah, either way, I'm just going to do a little quick one while I have a chance to record something, just have a little something out for this week. And I figured since it's Halloween, I want to maybe try to tackle some scary related things. And the first one I thought would be a fun little thing to talk about was a question submitted by Pikachu123 asking, "Hey Curb, have you ever seen Death Note and what did you think of it?" So this is appropriate for October. This is the first October that I've ever done a Curblog in, as we were getting close to the 1 year anniversary in November. But yeah, I figured I'd talk about my memories and experiences with that show. So in my last few years or so in high school, I think actually right around the time that I was doing Parody Rangers, believe it or not, the Death Note manga was coming out, and that was kind of right when it was becoming like a really, really massive deal. At least the beginnings of it in America. I remember at the time I had also heard about it was a big series enough to have warranted getting a live action movie in Japan already. I'd kind of heard some stuff about that. And then Viz started publishing the manga, and I remember not only were myself and all of my friends, most of my friends all reading it, but our teacher, we had me and Mike Lucas and Zach Blismo, Mike Carbucci, a bunch of other people. We had a comics illustration class. It was a really, really fun art class in our last couple of years of high school. And we had this fantastic teacher by the name of Anthony Cooley, who was an illustrator, and he knew how to work Photoshop. He did traditional comic art, and he was a martial artist on the side. Really, really great guy who we go back and visit once in a while back in New York. He was actually into it, and I want to say it might have even been because of him that we got into the manga, because in our classroom, which was like the art room basically, we had a bunch of volumes of Death Note just kind of tucked away, because he would get comics, and if we finish our work ahead of time, we'd be allowed to read it and check it out, and mainly for research purposes, quote unquote. But yeah, we had like a whole bunch of volumes of Death Note, I remember, all in there, and we were collecting them over time, and it was becoming a big thing for us. And then flashing forward a bit, when we got to college, that was when the anime started airing. And I think we had been keeping up with it a little bit in Japanese at the time, probably not legally, I admit, as what else is new. But yeah, we started watching it on Adult Swim when it was airing. And I remember actually, even all the really hardcore fans were like very impressed by the dub, which was fantastically performed and written. It was really, really great stuff. Brad Swale in particular and Alessandro Giuliani, those two in particular, gave some really amazing performances. And Trevor Duvall tells me it's the one and only anime series he's ever been in that he's watched in full. So that says something. Trevor Duvall was the voice of Aizawa, and Brad Swale and Alessandro Giuliani were Light and L, respectively. By the way, in case you didn't know, did you know? No, I'm not going to do a Did You Know Death Note episode. There's no reason to. There's not enough to talk about. Or maybe, I don't know, whatever. Shooting myself in the foot. Continuing. Yeah, so we were following the anime, and it was getting to be a big thing, and it was really taking over the world. I remember, I want to say it was either Otakon, oh God, I think 07 or 08. No, I think it was 08, I believe. But Mike, Lucas, and I went. We hung out with a bunch of our internet friends, and Jesus Christ, there were so many cosplayers. Like, in particular, I remember, if hopefully I'm remembering correctly, that was the year that we tried, we did a little game. We were trying to count how fucking many L cosplayers there were, because if you've seen L from Death Note before, it's not exactly a difficult costume to throw together. It's a white shirt and a scraggly wig or not, and then some jeans, and then you just go around and act all socially awkward. It's perfect. You blend right in an anime convention. Hey, okay. But we did also see some really, really badass Ryuk and Rem cosplayers of the death gods and all that. But yeah, so this was like right at the peak of its popularity. It was just like taking over the goddamn world. So the meat of this topic, and also to address the actual question of what did I think of it. There was something in particular that I noticed was kind of happening towards the end of the series' big kind of run of popularity, which is that, okay, so I'm going to get into spoiler territory, so if any of you guys don't want to hear what the spoilers of Death Note is, although you probably know what they are, it's been a really long time, you can stop listening to this, I guess. Oh no, I'm losing followers, whatever. Anyway, so after L dies, there was beginning to be a divide, or I don't know if it even was a divide, but I was noticing that there was this general consensus of like, oh, the second half of Death Note after L dies is like not as is not as intriguing and not as interesting, and it pales in comparison to the whole feud between Light and L, and people were just kind of saying that after that point it just wasn't good anymore. But there was something else I was noticing, kind of in tandem with that, and a lot of my friends that I've talked to about Death Note, I think have had this exact conversation with me before, but a lot of people were also saying that the Yotsuba group, if I'm remembering that name correctly, the business group of guys, those 10 or so guys that all had the Death Note at one point, was also a really boring arc. But that was basically like half of the entire story when L was alive. So it's like, okay, so you don't like any of the stuff after L dies with like Nier and Mello, and you don't like the Yotsuba arc, which means, and this is the general the people I talked to that had this opinion, I'm like, okay, so then that means that you only like about 25% of the actual story that the author came up with. And what I realized is that I think that the reality is, and I don't know, maybe this is being presumptuous, but just this is kind of what I was judging as the case with the hype around this series, was that I think that people just really, really liked the idea of Death Note, like the actual concept of like the book itself and the Shinigami and, the placement of Light, basically the protagonist or the main character being a villain or slowly descending into being a villain. And it's and it is a really intriguing concept, which is also why I in retrospect wasn't surprised that it was one of those series that was immediately, like, oh, this could be a live action movie and it could actually work. And it did. They did 2 movies and I'm sure they found some success. It's kind of like where I get like, I mentioned on, I don't think I said this on the Attack on Titan Kerblog, but I'm not surprised at the fact that there are people who want to make a live action adaptation out of that, because just conceptually it makes very, very good for, film material. So and the concept, like I said, the concept of Death Note is extremely unique and interesting. So I get that, but I don't know. Personally, and I guess to finally answer the actual question, is I like all of it. I found that all of it was really interesting, and including the Yotsuba guys, including Nier and Mello, I thought that all of them were different challenges for the different things that Light was going through. It was interesting because it was like a reversal, sort of like, when you have like a shonen series, which it was a Shonen Jump series, it was literally. Usually it's like you have the main character and the group of main characters or whatever, and then they have to fight a series of different villains. You have like your Frieza, then your Cell, and then Majin Buu for DBZ, etc., etc. But with Death Note, it was the opposite, where it was the villain that you were following, and he was consistent all throughout with his little posse of people or whatever, and he was being challenged by different adversaries that were good guys. In the form of like the police force, and then the L's detective guys, and then then Nier and Mello, and and then their kind of individual dudes that were following them and everything. It was a very unique, like, kind of subversive twist on sort of what the Shonen Jump formula, not for an action series, because obviously it wasn't that sort of thing. The text was so heavy it would take you so much longer to get through a single chapter than compared to any other Shonen Jump series, really. Maybe with the exception of the other stuff that Oba and Obata have written. I love me some Bakuman. You all know why, or you should know why, for multiple reasons. But yeah, I think it was just as intriguing as pretty much any of the other stuff that they've ever come up with. And
I don't know. I feel like that second half that people rip on so much, and even the Yotsuba stuff from the first part of the story, deserve a lot more credit than people give them.
Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it, and it's interesting because as I'm recording this, I'm almost maybe considering going back and watching the show again. In fact, actually, maybe what I'll even do is I'll watch it in the form of those recap movies, the OVAs. You know, I usually am not a fan of those, but in a case like this where it's just been a long time, it's like that might be worth it to watch those just to have kind of like a summarized version of what happened in the story. I'm down for that. I think it'd be cool. Oh, you know what? Last thing I will say, just because I really don't know if I'm ever going to do a Did You Know voice acting episode. As you guys have been noticing, I haven't been working on those in a while because I've been too busy working on Tome, which is kind of more important. So, but yeah, I don't know if I'd ever do an actual Did You Know voice acting episode about just Death Note. I guess maybe I could, but whatever. Either way, this wouldn't go in it, but just I found it interesting because this is voiceover related. So when I read the manga, and I think I even told Trevor Duvall this, I met him when I moved out here. When I was reading the manga, I actually had the Vancouver voice actors in my head as the voices. I don't know why. I think they did, if I'm remembering correctly, I think they did Hikaru no Go before that, which is another series by the same two authors. So it might have been because of that specifically. But yeah, I had like all Ocean Group, like Vancouver voice actors in my head for the different characters and things. And it was funny because in the second half, I actually guessed a couple of them correctly. I believe I guessed Kathy Westluck as Nier and Sam Vincent as Giovanni, who was one of Nier's like henchmen guys. And it might have been somebody else too, but I can't remember. But either way, but yeah, I guessed them correctly. Like I had them as my headcanon voices when I was reading the manga, like in high school or like early college or whatever it was. And then I actually guessed them correctly. And I remember, I think I was watching one of the later episodes with Mike or something like on TV, and I heard Nier and Giovanni both speak in the same episode. I'm like, yes, I got it right. Yes, I'm the best. And he's like, what are you talking about? Mike, if you're listening to this, I know I've made you suffer with my voice acting trivia mumbo jumbo bullshit for way too long. But anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, that's gonna do it. So leave in the comments below. What did you think of Death Note? Have you seen it? Did you read the manga? Did you watch the show? Were you a fan? Did you experience all the hype at conventions and things? Do you think that it holds up? Maybe I'll do a follow-up blog about it if I do end up going back and rewatching it again. But either way, yeah, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment, and if you got ideas for future Curdlot topics, leave a comment about that too, or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, etc., and you might inspire the next Curdlot topic. But in the meantime, either this will be coming out after Tome Episode 12 or before it, but I'm just going to leave a little annotation here, and I'll have a link to that whenever it goes up. So, yeah, but that'll do it. Thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoy the episode when it comes out or if it's already out, etc. And, yeah, thanks for listening. I'll catch you later.